We now understand the difference between privacy, anonymity, and pseudo-anonymity, which then brings us on to security. Here we can see our assets. These are the things that we care about, the things that we want to be private, like our files, our accounts, our financials, our email, and things that may relate to anonymity and our identity and not wanting association with our identity, maybe our browser history, what we download, what we post, and so on. The assets are individual to you, your personal needs. And to protect these assets, we apply security through various security controls. Security controls are VPNs, encryption, OPSEC, patching, HTTP filters, OpenPGP, locked screens, and the others that you can see here. So this means that security is the degree to which our assets are resistant to threats from our adversaries. And we select security controls based on the type of threats and adversaries that we face. Threats are the bad things that can happen, like a malware attack, like mass surveillance, like exploit kits, like the weakening of encryption and a virus infection, and the others that you can see here. And these threats, they are enabled by our adversaries, which might be hackers, cyber criminals, nation states, oppressive regimes, and maybe something like your ex-partner if you're unlucky. And you can also see here these red triangles. These represent vulnerabilities, bugs, and weaknesses in your security controls. A threat will try to exploit vulnerabilities in your security to impact your assets. For example, malware infecting your computer through the vulnerability of being unpatched. Risk equals vulnerabilities times threats times consequences would be a way of representing it in a formula. The likelihood of threats exploiting vulnerabilities in your security controls and the consequences of that is known as risk. Risk to your assets, the risk to you, the risk to your privacy and anonymity. And the threats and adversaries that you face, these are called your threat landscape or your threat model. Your threat landscape will be individual to you. In the section on Know Your Enemy, we will better understand the threats and adversaries that are out there so you can assess what your individual threat landscape is, although we will share a lot of common threats and adversaries, such as hackers, cyber criminals, and so on. But we may not all have an unfortunate ex-partner. So as you can clearly see, security does absolutely not exist in isolation. There is not a one-size-fits-all solution. Your security controls should be selected based on their ability to mitigate your perceived threats and adversaries, and the consequences of that realization. For example, you might select Tor as a security control to help mitigate against mass surveillance, the threat of mass surveillance from an oppressive regime. And you might choose Tor because the consequences are high in terms of your identity. And once your identity is known, the consequences will be realized. So you must implement security controls to protect your assets, to ensure privacy and anonymity and pseudo-anonymity if you require it. Security is a technology, security is also an action, and it's also a process. It's very important to understand that security controls are not just technology. You must understand that. Security controls are also processes and actions. Your actions are in fact one of the most important security controls to protect your assets and mitigate threats and adversaries. The outcome of suitable security processes, actions, and technology is the protection of your assets, privacy, and anonymity.